Let's talk about AI.
Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendon Traxler.
So I was having a conversation the other day with Ben from Arktide, and if anybody that's followed our ASC for a while has known that underwater data servers has been on the topic of one of the areas that I personally believe is a very possibility for what would make underwater habitats a profitable future. As we've spoken before, Microsoft put an underwater data server in the water, a couple of them actually, several years ago for testing to see if they're even feasible, with amazing results. Since then, China has been building one, South Korea has plans for one, and other people have talked about building them as well. So, with the advent of AI and all the computational power that it requires, I got looking into what the projected growth for just the data server market alone is. And in dollar figures, they said the AI server market, it was roughly $12 billion in 2023. And by 2029, they're expecting it to be a $50 billion market. So with a 26% year over year growth. So there's a lot of money in data servers when it comes to AI. But the bigger thing is that when you're talking technology, and especially when you're talking something like AI, which has high computational patterns and it's really crunching numbers and needs fast bandwidth, etc., you're talking extreme heat too. So, right now what they're doing is water cooling, which has been used for decades, even in personal computers. Or there's new technologies for air cooling, these things as well. But what about underwater? Because you've already got the cooling factor right there. So if you haven't watched our videos or listened to our podcast and stuff on underwater data centers, I would definitely encourage you to go back and do that, because we go quite a bit in depth in there, and I've made several videos on them. But basically, recapping real quick is, underwater data servers solve multiple different issues when it comes with data centers in general. They're showing that 50% of the population is moving close to the coast. So having those data centers right off the shore, cuts down latency. On top of it, they're easier and quicker to deploy than on land. So because you don't have to worry about the security from the standpoint of all the land and land rights and everything, all the red tape you got to go through for that. Security, even though it's never really talked about, should be an increase because you're underwater, first off, and it's kind of hard to get to. One thing somebody else also doesn't talk about is the possibility of EMP. If you've got a server here on land and an EMP hits, it's most likely going to get shut down, but water is a natural barrier for that. So you've got that to come to play. Then combine it with, greener energy usually would run those. So it's better for the environment. You've got the water around that's going to automatically cool the habitat. And then you can siphon that through there and cool the servers as well. The only area that comes into question really is data speeds. And you could have a fiber that is run out to it as well. Redundancy, you can switch over to some sort of satellite connection, which is not ideal by any means, but there are redundancy needs there, ways of taking care of it as well. So, what do you guys think? It's one, and I think several weeks ago, I think I even talked about that on podcasts about, where do we go? Do as underwater habitats and as ASC, do we shoot towards the resort area or do we focus on the data area? And so after talking to Ben from Arktide, and we were discussing this a little bit more in depth, I feel more confident and more confirmed that my personal bias for underwater data centers is not so much a bias, but actually may be the definitive route to move forward for underwater habitats, at least to make them profitable, which then at that point in time, you can open them up to everybody a little bit easier because you've got that capital flowing in. But that's for another podcast. So, to wrap this one up, what's your thoughts on underwater data centers, more specifically with AI being involved? And I'll add this one thing too that came up in conversation is everybody's throwing money at AI right now. It's the hot thing, so people are looking to capitalize on that. And if underwater data centers can cut down on some of those costs and allow some smaller companies or bigger companies such as Amazon and Microsoft and such the means to be more profitable, it's a no-brainer.